Chapter 7 When the Walls Turned into Doors. My Polytechnic journey didn't begin with a grand sense of victory. It began quietly. Naveen had already become my compass whenever I was in Vuyuru. He was my mother's brother's son. We had just 2 years of age difference. He was a brother I didn't ask for. He took me everywhere, to the fields, to the canals, to the small kirana shops or grocery stores, where the smell of jaggery sweets and savory snacks often attracted us. He never hesitated, simply caught my wrist and said, "Ra, Nani," which meant, "Come, Nani." Pawan, who was also from the same village, often joined us. Together, the three of us were noisy, carefree, and inseparable. We played cricket in the narrow lanes. Naveen batted and I bowled with all the seriousness in the world. I couldn't see the ball, but I heard its sound, the crack on the bat and their screams. In those moments, I was not the blind boy that had to adjust. I was just another kid in the game. And that's how we formed a strong bond at that age, which is still intact. In a dawn-lit lane in Vuyuru, often my grandmother's soft prayers drifting through the house and the familiar footsteps of my cousin Naveen calling out, "Nani, come fast, we'll miss the bus." The air smelt of damp earth, wood smoke and jasmine. Naveen's school bag bounced on his shoulder as he took my hand with a confidence far bigger than his age. "Stone ahead, step right. There's water here, slow. Now straight." He had memorized every crack and turn of the lane like a map etched in his mind. By the time we reached the Vuyuru bus stand, the town had awoken. Vendors selling hot idlis or steamed rice cakes, kettles whistling, and conductors calling destinations like drumbeats. Gudivada, Machilipatnam, Vijayawada. Naveen guided me through the rush, settled me into the right bus, checked my bag twice, and whispered, "Don't worry, Nani. I told the conductor to stop at Gudivada." The whistle blew. His voice faded as the bus moved forward. "Bye, Nani." Every turn, bump, and breeze soon became a part of my internal compass. By the time we reached Gudivada, I stepped into another storm of sound. Hawkers selling fried snacks, rickshaw bells ringing, and students rushing. There was no direct bus to Gudlavalleru, so every day I depended on his kindness. "I'm going to Gudlavalleru Polytechnic," I would say. And every day someone replied, "Come, I'll take you. Hold my arm. We're going the same way." They helped me cross roads, spoke to conductors, walked me all the way to my classroom, made sure I reached safely, and then vanished into the crowd. I learned kindness doesn't have a face. It just becomes direction. Gudlavalleru Polytechnic stood wide and welcoming. Long corridors that smelled of chalk, classrooms buzzing with chatter. But what truly shaped my journey were the people. At home, along with my mother, my uncle Venkateshwar Rao guided me on teenage challenges and imparted wisdom on values. Those lessons I still abide by. Principal C.H. Venkataramanna wasn't just an administrator. He was the reason everything worked for me, not only during college but also later in Hyderabad. "Your success will be a pride, Nagababu," he once said. Those words stayed with me longer than any certificate. The college management arranged scholarship, and C.H. Venkataramanna sir ensured I never lacked the tools to learn. Shankar Rao sir, the head of the department, was strict but fair. He would tap the desk and say, "No excuses, explain the code." I wrote programs in Braille, line by line. He corrected my logic with patience, not pity. Padmaja, who was a physics teacher from Devnar, went beyond duty. During my first year in Polytechnic, she drew tactile diagrams and sent them to me so I could feel and understand concepts others only saw. Those diagrams became my bridge to confidence. Radha madam, who taught electrical machines, did something extraordinary. She brought tactile diagrams into the classroom and often took extra time to help me feel and understand rotating fields, armatures, and machines that most people only learn visually. She never rushed me, neither did she make me feel different. Outside classrooms, chess became my quiet battlefield. I enjoyed it often in Polytechnic, encouraged strongly by our sports sir, Sivaram, who believed competition sharpened confidence. Once I played a long, intense chess game against an engineering student who was a university-level finalist. The game stretched for nearly 3 hours. I don't even remember who won. What I remember is the silence around us. Everyone watching us in awe. That game taught me that attention is sometimes the loudest applause. On the other hand, Sarojini madam turned programming into poetry. Nagababu, she would say, now tell me what this loop does. I visualized the flow, explained it, and her approving nod was worth more than grades. VVRSR, the mathematics lecturer, used to tell me, feel numbers, they'll never betray you. And KVRSR, the English lecturer, made me believe that voice itself is powerful. You speak with conviction, keep using that strength. All of them encourage me in different ways. However, Polytechnic days were not just about academics. During my final year, there were days I managed with only dinner. To reduce food bills, I sometimes skipped lunch and survived on a packet of biscuits bought by friends. There were mornings when my grandmother had to borrow 35 rupees, just enough for my bus fare so I could attend college. Sometimes growth isn't dramatic. It's just the ability to endure without falling apart. In 2003, life shook us again. My younger sister, who was blind, fell from an open terrace. The news came without warning, the way fear always does. We rushed her to the hospital, hearts pounding louder than our footsteps. I remember standing there, realizing I didn't even have 10 rupees in my pocket to call my father from a telephone booth. The doctor spoke of surgery we couldn't afford. With no other choice, we shifted her to a government ward, carrying not just her, but also our fear, our limits, and our helplessness. She survived, but something inside me broke that day, quietly, permanently. I learned that strength isn't always loud. It doesn't announce itself. Sometimes strength is simply staying present when everything inside you is collapsing. That realization stayed with me as I continued walking forward. Not because life had become easier, but because I had learned that endurance itself is a form of courage, and that lesson still carries me through the years ahead. My life was stitched together by friends. On tiring days, I stayed in their tiny rented room with 2 floor mats, a kerosene stove, and a sky full of ambition. Nights were filled with laughter, debates, and dreams lit by candlelight when power failed. They read diagrams aloud, explained circuits patiently, and made sure I never missed a lesson. When classes ended early, either Ravi or Raja would bring their bicycle. They would make me sit on the frame and hold the handle while I pedaled slowly down the college road. Those slow rides were freedom, wind in my hair, laughter around me, blindness forgotten. Among all my companions, Deepti was the calmest. Her voice became my evening classroom. She read chapters aloud, recorded lessons on cassettes, and revised with me before exams. "Shall I repeat that once more?" she would ask gently. Her patience had no edge. It was steady, gentle, and unwavering. She shared her lunch when I had no food. Her help was not sympathy, it was solidarity. If Deepti was my voice for learning, Rajni Madam was my compass. She typed every note Deepti wrote, turned them into computer files, and made sure I could access everything with my screen reader. Her kindness extended beyond the classroom. Every evening she walked with me from the college to the bus stop. "Careful, small step here, straight now, bus coming to the right." She held my hand not out of fear that I would fall, but out of certainty that I must not walk alone. At the Gudlavalleru bus stop, amid the noise of engines and chatter, she ensured I boarded safely. On the bus, she talked about her mother's cooking, old films, or the lessons of the day. Her voice drew a circle of tranquility around me. At Gudivada, before parting, she insisted, "Let's have something cool." We stood at a tiny cool drink stall sipping Fanta under the flickering tube light. The sweetness of the drink, her laughter, the noise of the town. Those 5 minutes were my small celebrations of life. Only after leading me to the Vuyuru bus did she leave. She used to tell the conductor, "He's my student, please make sure he gets down safely." Before parting, she had pat my shoulder saying, "Now go home and eat something." Her voice trailed behind the departing bus. "Good night." By the time I reached Vuyuru, my grandmother used to wait for me at the bus stop. Even before stepping down, I would hear her soft call, "Come, Nani." Her hand found mine, steady, warm, and eternal. From one caring hand to another, my day completed a full circle. Those evenings taught me that kindness, given without expectation, becomes strength, and that strength carried me farther than any sight ever could. My first year in Polytechnic was a year of learning, adjusting, and constantly proving that I deserved to be in the classroom. Everything was new for me, as well as for the faculty and staff of the college, but they never left any stone unturned to support me. Rural institutions in the early 2000s had not taught blind students. They did not have knowledge on how to guide me, but they provided me every possible support. For instance, no technical subjects can be taught without diagrams. But for me, faculty always took an extra effort by drawing the diagrams on the tactile boards and giving them to me before the class began. When exams arrived, I wrote every paper the way I knew. It was by preparing well and giving my best. The testing method for visually impaired students was different. We had a scribe, usually a junior class student who wrote for us. But for me, a non-technical person was assigned as a scribe for Polytechnic exams. So every diagram, formula, and circuit explanation had to be drawn roughly by me so they could replicate it on the answer sheet. Though they were unaware of the diagrams, they followed my scribbles to make a fair copy. A single mistake in dictation meant a completely different answer on the paper. Also, the State Board of Technical Education followed a strict process. My answer sheets were sealed and packed separately. They were sent for special scrutiny for evaluators to cross-check twice. The college made sure of one thing, that no loose end was provided to me. They offered neither shortcuts nor special favors. The day my results were out, I was shocked. I had cleared my theory papers, but practical exam marks were missing. At first, I thought it was an error or a printing mistake. But then I was told that the management was not convinced of how a blind student could perform the practicals. I paid visits to the State Board of Technical Education and spoke to the Commissioner and other officials. Principal C.H. Venkataramana sir also spoke to the officials and explained to them patiently about my situation through letters. He pushed to conduct things faster, to avoid delays that might affect my progression to the second year. The board finally agreed to reconduct the exam. During the re-exams, I performed every step slowly, describing every action and answering technical questions with clarity. There was no doubt left about what I knew. Eventually, the marks came, and I had passed. That episode taught me that people may question your abilities, but they cannot override your perseverance. By the final year, I wasn't just studying computers. I believed ideas could create change. When the National ISTE, Indian Society for Technical Education convention in Gujarat announced paper presentations, I submitted mine on empowering the girl child. It came from my own experiences, my mother's courage, my sister's struggles, the quiet battles of women around me. The college management arranged sponsorship and Principal C.H. Venkataramana sir supported me well. He encouraged me, saying, "Go Nagababu, the nation should hear your voice." Rajni madam refined my speech. Deepti, along with other friends, helped me collect artifacts. When I boarded the train with Rangababu sir and other students, the smell of chai or tea and the rhythmic clatter of train's wheels filled me with wonder. At the venue, when I finally stood before a hall of professors in Gujarat, my hands shivered. But when I began to speak, fear slipped away. I spoke of dignity, opportunity, and the right of every girl to dream. When I finished, silence held for a moment. Then applause rose like a storm. I had won first prize at the national level. A girl from another college approached, placed a rose in my hand and said, "Your words inspired me." I kept that rose pressed in my file for years. It was a reminder that truth, when spoken from the heart, can move mountains. I rushed to the telephone booth to call and share the news with my family. But even before I could speak, I got the news. "Your mother is hospitalized." My joy collapsed into worry. Life had a way of mixing the sweet and the bitter without warning. Whenever some happy moments arrived in my life, they were overshadowed with sadness. But I made sure that I maintained a balance between both situations. Instead of panicking, I boarded a train to see my mother. When I finally saw her weak, lying on the hospital bed, I learned that success means nothing unless it's shared with those who carried you towards it. Polytechnic life demanded endurance more than enthusiasm. On days when exhaustion crept in quietly, Pawan's presence reminded me that persistence did not have to be loud. It only has to be continuous. When I look back, I do not remember the exhaustion, the two-bus commute, or the exams. I remember hands that held mine, voices that guided me, and the hearts that refused to let me fall. Those polytechnic days became the foundation of my life. I also attended campus elections held during that time. Unfortunately, the companies that interviewed me did not have suitable roles for me. But I did not lose my confidence. My faculty encouraged me to move on and go ahead with engineering so there would be broader opportunities for me.